1. Alaska Summit Winners and Losers. On August 15th, the world's eyes were locked on Alaska. The fate of the Ukraine war, maybe even the future of Europe's security, hung in the balance. But when the handshakes were over, the scoreboard was brutal. Biggest loser. India, begged for relief, left stuck with 25% oil tariffs. Surprise winner. China, sanctions threat vanished, still guzzling Russian oil. Second biggest winner. Trump, trapped himself, then spun the escape as a dealmaker win. Biggest winner. Putin, red carpet, no concessions, and Trump now echoes Moscow's line. Silent loser. Ukraine, humiliated, on the menu not at the table, but disaster avoided. Ignored player. EU, shut out completely, left watching from the sidelines. That's the harsh scorecard of Alaska. Before we dive in, if you appreciate calm, clear breakdowns of big global plays, please hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment with your take. 2. Biggest loser. India. Everyone assumed Ukraine would be the big loser. But no, the one who walked out most bruised was India. Delhi went in hoping Putin could win it relief from America's oil tariffs. Putin tried to help, but failed. And Trump wouldn't budge. The 25% penalty on Indian oil imports is still in place. Think about it. America punished its so-called strategic partner while giving Beijing a free pass. That is humiliation, and that makes India the biggest loser of Alaska. 3. Surprise winner. China. Here's the twist. The surprise winner wasn't even in the spotlight. It was China. Trump had hinted at secondary sanctions on China's Russian oil purchases when pressed by journalists. That should have crushed Beijing, the world's largest buyer. But in Alaska, Trump blinked. No new sanctions, no new tariffs. Beijing walked away with a quiet win. 4. Why this happened. So why did Alaska flip like this? Because Trump trapped himself. He first set a 50-day deadline for Russia to stop its war, or face crushing sanctions. Then he shortened it to just 10 days. The final cutoff, August 8th. Trump threatened up to 500% sanctions on Russian oil buyers if Putin didn't agree to a ceasefire. And yes, he actually hit India with an extra 25% tariff on Russian oil. Delhi called it arbitrary and unfair. But after all that drama, Putin didn't blink. China refused to fold, and even India stood firm. When the day came, Trump realized he couldn't enforce his own threat. So what did he do? He sent his personal envoy to Moscow, and covered himself with the Alaska summit on August 15th. The photo op became his escape hatch. 5. Second biggest winner. Trump. So don't underestimate Trump. He turned his own blunder into a personal win. Yes, he ignored his deadline. Yes, he dodged sanctions he couldn't enforce. But politically, he sold it as a triumph. He didn't sell out Ukraine. Instead, he staged Alaska as proof he's the ultimate dealmaker. And Trump basked in the limelight, as always. 6. Biggest winner. Putin. Still, the man who truly owned Alaska was Vladimir Putin. He gave up nothing. He got the red carpet on US soil. He broke his Western isolation. And his biggest win? He flipped Trump. Putin's line has always been clear. A ceasefire means nothing unless the West addresses Russia's security concerns. And now Trump is repeating it. That is a diplomatic jackpot. 7. Silent loser. Ukraine. And Ukraine? The silent loser. It wasn't in the room. It wasn't at the table. It was on the table. That's humiliation. Just like China in 1905 Portsmouth, when the Russo-Japanese War was negotiated over its land, without its voice. But here's the small relief. Trump didn't lift sanctions on Russia and India. He didn't recognize occupied land. So Ukraine avoided the absolute worst. Still, the pressure is immense. Zelensky is now flying to Washington, dragging EU leaders with him, desperate to prevent further catastrophe. 8. Ignored player. EU. And finally, Europe. The ignored player. Not invited, not consulted, just left watching as Trump and Putin carved the stage without them. For Brussels, Alaska was a brutal reminder. Trump doesn't see them as players. A century ago, Roosevelt's Portsmouth deal humiliated China. Today, Trump's Alaska summit handed out a new set of humiliations. Because in geopolitics, one rule never changes. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. 9. Closing. If this gave you something to think about, hit like and subscribe. And if you want more stories that bridge left and right, the US and the world, drop a comment, ask a question, share it with someone as curious as you. See you next time on Twin Peaks Bridge Reflection.